131 minutes. Just a little over 2 hours. What is that, like the length of a movie or a normal commute in the Bay Area? Maybe a really good nap. But it's also how often someone under 25 loses their life to suicide in the United States, according to the Suicide and Crisis Center of North Texas. And it doesn't seem like this will get any better anytime soon. In fact, rates have increased steadily for decades, with sharp sudden increases in just the last few years. Does it have to be this way? Is there anything we can do to start saving lives and reversing these trends? Hearing these dramatic increases and the tragedies they represent, it can be easy to feel hopeless. But what if there was a benefit that was so widely available that most communities and schools already provide it for free? And what would you say if I told you that less than 10 minutes a day of this activity could help you cope with the stress and anxiety that all of us are forced to deal with on a daily basis? This incredibly beneficial activity? Reading. And more specifically, reading science fiction and fantasy. While this may seem like a tiny band-aid to cover such a large and far-reaching problem, I can tell you through my own real lived experience that it can help. I've been a huge fan of reading for as long as I can remember. It was a vital part of my life as a young child. I remember getting a stack of books about as tall as I was as a 4-year-old and lugging them to bed and begging my mom to read them all with me before I went to sleep for the night. And I remember when I started my first fantasy series. I was 12 years old, and a friend of mine told me I should check out The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. I was hooked. You mean to tell me that I could spend hours a day using magic and fighting monsters? And further, through hours of podcasts and online research, I've since learned that reading these types of books can offer so much more than just the chance to cast a spell. Reading science fiction and fantasy offers many benefits, especially to young people, including improving mental health, boosting problem solving, vocabulary, and memory skills, as well as aiding in scientific understanding and discovery. Reading sci-fi fantasy can improve levels of stress, anxiety, and depression. One study conducted by the University of Sussex and cited by major UK news publication, The Telegraph, demonstrated that reading can reduce stress by as much as 70%. It was even more effective than traditionally calming methods, like relaxing with a cup of tea or going for a walk. And they showed that this effect could be achieved in as little as 6 minutes. Reading fiction can even reduce feelings of depression by creating a sense of camaraderie and emotional connection with the characters in the story. Furthermore, Richard Sima stated in Psychology Today that these feelings of connection foster empathy in children. This leads to more open-minded and accepting kids who are not only more resilient themselves, but are also less likely to engage in bullying, helping to stop that cycle of violence. Now that we've seen how reading can improve your mental health, let's look at how it can affect your mental acuity. Although some people consider science fiction and fantasy books to be a waste of time, Dr. Gwen Dewar says in Parenting Science magazine that reading fantasy books boosts creativity and vocabulary skills in children. It even improves their working memory and problem solving, which enables them to find unique solutions. And not only is it helpful and protective in children, but throughout your life, reading can help you fend off mental decline. This includes reducing symptoms of Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. And according to the University of California, Berkeley, reading can even reduce the protein plaque that builds up in the brain that causes Alzheimer's. This is especially surprising because that means reading can be beneficial in ways that are similar to the very first helpful Alzheimer's medication that was just approved last week. Dr. Wade Fish of North Central University has also indicated that this reduction in the rate of mental decline can literally help you live longer. And not only can reading sci-fi fantasy help with mental health and acuity, but it also aids in our understanding of science. Sci-fi fantasy has benefited technology and society as a whole immensely. Many modern machines and conveniences were first imagined in science fiction stories. I remember more than 15 years ago reading the short story The Machine Stops by E.M. Forster. It was originally written in 1909, and he imagined a world where everyone stayed isolated and communicated solely through video devices. I'm not saying he predicted the COVID-19 pandemic, but that sounds pretty similar to what life was like just a few years ago, and more than 100 years after he originally published the story. Science fiction and fantasy also don't just help predict future science, though. They can also assist children with relating science lessons they've learned in the present day. Researchers Emily Hopkins and Angeline Lillard of the University of Virginia Department of Psychology have shown that educational lessons that are embedded in fantastical stories can encourage children to apply those lessons in real life more readily than those who learned from a more realistic story. With so many proven benefits, it's hard to see how science fiction and fantasy aren't a larger part of our lives. These genres offer so many benefits, like aiding in scientific understanding and discovery, boosting mental acuity, and helping to improve your mental health. As someone who struggled with mental health my entire life, especially when I was in my teens and early 20s, I can speak with firsthand experience when I say that fantasy and science fiction books can literally save a life. And with the Kaiser Foundation recently saying that 50% of all 18 to 24-year-olds report experiencing depression and anxiety, there's no time like the present to pick up a book. Our lives could depend on it.